Hello everyone, this video goes through the story of GTA 4 The Lost and Damned. Johnny Klebitz, vice president of the alternate chapter of the Lost MC, has been busy protecting against business interests in Liberty City and is loyal to the chapter president, Billy Gray, who was recently sent to rehab for heroin addiction after narrowly avoiding a 15-year sentence in prison. When Billy returns, he soon takes back his leadership in the Lost and reclaims his bike, which Johnny has sold for arranging the money for Billy's lawsuit. Eventually, they retrieve Billy's bike from Angels of Death, the rival of the Lost MC. After a conflict between the two gangs, some members of the Angels of Death condemns Billy's non-compliance, but Billy replies by killing one of them. Billy's violent actions towards the AOD causes a previously established truce to be broken between the two gangs, threatening the Brotherhood's survival. Though Johnny objects to his decisions, Billy continues to rouse conflicts between the two gangs, during which many brothers in both gangs lost their lives. The relationship between Billy and Johnny grows intense. Johnny still works with Jim Fitzgerald to further sabotage Angels of Death's business at the behest of Billy by stealing AOD bikes to be sold for parts. They briefly have problems with two corrupt police officers who are attempting to extort them due to the stolen bikes, and later lure them into a death trap set by the Lost, killing them and their corrupt LCPD colleagues. To further complicate matters, Jason Michaels, a recently patched-in member of the Lost MC, is killed in Broker during an attack on the members of the Lost by the Angels of Death. Billy uses the opportunity to convince his gangsters that the AOD were responsible for the murder, despite the fact that Jason was killed by Nicole Bellic for his dating with Faustin's daughter. In retaliation, the gang attacks the Angels of Death clubhouse and secures a large amount of heroin. The gang attempts to sell the heroin through drug dealer Elisabetta Torres, who introduces Johnny to Nicole. The two carries the heroin to the dealing place, but the buyer turns out to be an undercover cop. Following the botched deal, the FIB begins to track Johnny and his brothers. Thomas Stubbs, a corrupt congressman, pays Johnny to help him stay on top politically. Johnny helps him to get rid of his uncle for a large amount of heritage, and then hijacks a prison transportation bus to help Stubbs' friend escape. Eventually, Johnny's friend and treasurer of the Lost Brotherhood, Jim Fitzgerald, learns that the heroin was stolen from the trials by the Angels of Death, so the gang attempts to sell it back to them. Despite Billy's objection, Johnny and Jim convince him to the deal after the heated dispute. However, when Johnny and Jim bring the heroin to the Dryers in Chinatown, they are robbed off. In the meantime, the LCPD is called upon the site, and they capture Billy, who is sent back to prison. Billy firmly believes he's been betrayed by Johnny. Following Billy's arrest, Johnny becomes the chapter's new president. However, Brian Jeremy, the club's secretary, refuses to follow, having been fiercely loyal to Billy and blaming Johnny for his arrest. Brian attempts to ambush Johnny and his loyalists using a peace meeting at the docks as a ruse, sending members of his rebel faction after them, but Johnny barely escapes. Through some Italian mafia, Johnny later learns about the location of Brian's safe house, and he ambushes Brian and the members of his rebel faction there, killing Brian in the end. In order to keep the gang afloat, Johnny begins working with members from Uptown Riders, Malk and Deshawn, who help to provide some explosive weapons to fight against the Angels of Death. They ambush and rob a convoy at the highway toll station and take the van to Elisabetta. On behest of Elisabetta, Johnny helps one of her drug mules escape from the LCPD when she is arrested at the airport. Then Johnny, Malk and Deshawn go to see the buyer of cocaine, but they are duped by the buyers, and the deal is interrupted by the police. The three escape the police chasing after a splendid gunfight on the highway. Johnny's ex-girlfriend, Ashley Butler, owes money to Dmitry Raskolov because of her heavy drug addiction. To clear her debt, Johnny agrees to Dmitry's men for dirty work. He and Mark go and kidnap Roman Bellic and deliver him to Dmitry's men at a warehouse. At the recommendation of Ashley, Johnny eventually comes to help out Pellegrino family capo Ray Boccino. Through Ray, Johnny learns about an opportunity to earn a lot of money by doing a diamond heist. Johnny and his Lost members hide at the docks where Prince Tony is making a deal with a cook for a large amount of diamonds. Johnny and his men interrupt and grab the diamonds. Then Johnny stashes the diamonds in the trash bags around the city as being told by Ray. Some days later, Johnny goes to the Libertarian to meet Nico. There, they plan to make a deal with the Jewish mafia for the diamonds. In the course of the deal, Louis holds them at his gunpoint from the window for taking the diamonds back. After some Jewish mobsters are shot, the diamonds are taken away by Louis, and Johnny manages to escape with the money. After dealing with Ray's henchmen, he takes the money back to Jim, planning to keep it for the Brotherhood. Shortly afterwards, Johnny gets a message from Jim, who requests to meet him at Ray Boccino's place. Getting there, Johnny finds an angry Ray holds a gun towards him and takes him to the basement where Jim is being tortured. Ray demands them to give back his money, but Jim secretly gets rid of his rope and takes a chance to hold Ray's men as his hostage. Johnny takes advantage of Ray's distraction to kick off his gun. The two successfully escape before Jim cuts the throat of his hostage, leaving a fury Ray behind. Then Johnny is busted by some hitmen ordered by Ray, but he dispatches all of them. When he eventually gets back to the Lost MC clubhouse, Ashley is outside and sadly tells him that Jim has died. The following day, the congressman Stubbs pays Johnny a visit in the clubhouse. He tries to convince Johnny not to take revenge on Ray, but instead focuses on Billy, who is under a witness protection program that testifies against Johnny for drug dealing, so that he may be freed from prison. Given no other choice, Johnny gathers all the members of Lost MC in front of the prison, where they arm themselves with heavy weaponry. Then Johnny leads his men fighting into the prison. Though it's heavily guarded by the police, Johnny fights through the walls of defense and gets to the playground, where they are stopped by the arriving SWAT team. After the gunfight, Johnny and his men clear all the police force in the prison and finds Billy. Johnny executes him and runs out. As he returned to the clubhouse, they found that it had sustained heavy damage due to the conflict with Ray Boccino. Only several members have survived, and they regret the happy time they've been spending inside the house, and get no idea how they run into this end. Johnny can't give the answer either, except order that they burn the clubhouse down. The Lost remnants stand in front of the burning building, contemplating their future.